Hey everyone, how are we? It's great to have you back this week. Hopefully, you're all finding it quite um, challenging, but still not bringing up too many hurt feelings. I've had some emails from people who have felt really challenged by some of the material. If you are feeling that way, always take a step back and look at it from a bigger perspective. I mean, some of it is very sad and very challenging, so you need to make sure you're looking at it from an outer perspective and it's not impacting on you too much. It is great in some ways. It's impacting on you because it will change your teaching practice. So, but if it is causing you to feel very sad and it's affecting you more than it should and impacting on other parts of your life, take a step back, turn it off for a bit, come back when you're feeling ready to go again. I just want to acknowledge the Noongar Boodja land here that I'm on before I start my video. Um, and yeah, the impact the people and the learnings from here have had upon this video. Now, I'm going to quickly have a look at this week's material. Then I'm going to discuss some issues that seem to be coming up quite regularly in emails and on the discussion board. So this week we are looking at the Indigenous Australian history and the timeline and colonisation. A lot of you probably will find this very different to what you have seen in the past. Australian history is very much taught from a European and English perspective, history, as I mentioned in the collaborate that I'd said. And a lot of people go, ouch, because they're male and white, and they've only heard this history, and that's not your fault. So when you're going through this, have a look at it carefully. And when we're looking at the history, what we want you to do this week, and some people touched on it last week, which I was so impressed about, very good observation, have a look at those of the Indigenous timeline, history timeline, and then have a look at the time that David Unipan was around and how that timeline, the events, may have impacted on why he was not recognised for what he did and how it impacted on how he was treated and how things happened. Because if he was around now, I would hope that things would be very, very different. So have a look at that and really think about that Indigenous historical timeline. Have a look at the colonial one. You're probably a lot more familiar with that and from that perspective. But when you look at David Unipan, have a look at the other timeline and just work out why these things happened. And that's what we're wanting you to talk about on the discussion board. It sounds a little confusing when you first read the questions on the discussion board, I know, and I've had some questions around that. But if you go back, look at that historical timeline and then go and look at when David Unipan was around and when his inventions came in, you will find you understand a lot more. And write that perspective, even if it's just like a couple sentences, just write it down there because it will get going. And I've noticed our discussion boards are very quiet, but I think it's because the description of the activity is really hard to follow unless you go back and use that timeline. Okay, so hopefully that helps you a little bit with that. Now, what I've done this week with the video is I'm using Wondershare for Filmora here. It's a paid for app that I've used for my Mac, but that's because I like how it works. It's easy to edit, and I was using QuickTime, but Mac stopped supporting QuickTime, and that was free software that came with the Mac. Now, I've had some people ask if they can use Screencast-O-Matic because it works the same way. So you can show your PowerPoint like I'm here, and you can also have your screen like this. Screencast-O-Matic is wonderful if you've got a PC. If you've got a Mac, the sound won't work. And that's really annoying. That's why I had to download this. So, so if you've got a Screencast-O-Matic, you're lucky. If you've got a PC, if you've got a Mac, we've had suggestions of using iMovie, which is fabulous because iMovie is great for editing, and iMovie is something you can use on this. There is the Adobe Pro. You could use that, and that is expensive. It costs a bit of money, but it works across both platforms. Microsoft have got an inbuilt film editor which can also do the screen. So if you've got a Microsoft computer, you'll be able to use that. I can't remember what it's called. And yeah, if you've got an older Mac, you might be lucky, and QuickTime might still work on it. So do a search for QuickTime, and that was the free software they had before. But iMovie will definitely work if you want to do your videoing editing that way. You are allowed to edit the video, so we want it to look as professional as possible. So you can see here, I've got it so you can start see where my fingers are pointing, obviously. That would be great if you could. We had screen on screen on screen. Yeah, but I'm pointing, you can see my screen. I can also make it so that I can just show you an app, which means you can show the PowerPoint at the same time as you're doing the video. Because as I was saying in the Collaborate, one of the big problems with having a PowerPoint on a TV behind you, unless you get the camera angle right, is that that's very bright and it makes you turn into a shadow ghost. We don't want you to be a shadow ghost. We want to be able to see you. So, yeah, have a go with that. But if you've got the PowerPoint on a screen behind you, you might need to just see where you can get the camera angle so that because the light from it will make you go dull because it tries to equalize the light. So if you can get it on a sort of sideways angle, sometimes that light won't affect it. So you can have a play with the camera angles. Anyway, hopefully you're all going well. Make sure you watch both Collaborates. They showed a little bit of different aspects of the assignment. I think you are doing a great job. Don't overthink about it, but it's really good for you to understand all the materials and resources in your area. If you're having a trouble, pop a question up and we will work on it. And I will see you again next week. Have a great week, and I'll speak soon. Bye.